Today on Top Gear Rearview, we're getting repetitive here, Kirkwood.
God damn it. Getting repetitive here, Kirkwood.
And Brady's used to driving slow trucks. I had like a 1 liter engine in that thing, and I was like, this thing is zippy.
Hello and welcome to Top Gear Rearview. I'm Jeff. That's Brady. Tonight we are kicking off Series 4 of the new Top Gear.
This episode aired on the 9th of May in 2004, and the star in a reasonably priced car is Fay Ripley, or also known as Whore Scenes Deleted.
That's a tough call out. Tonight we kick things off with the first, what I would say, well, not first proper challenge, but first car versus something proper challenge. When they with a race on the train and in a DB9 from the Top Gear track to the south of France. James has his unorthodox review of the City Rover, and really kind of a short segment, or kind of a short episode. We round things out in the end, trying to get misluck on a Lotus Exige from an Apache. So hodgepodge of segments, but pretty solid episode, this one.
There's a lot of things in here that I remember. I remember the race, I remember the Apache, and obviously we've talked about it before, the City Rover undercover test. I remember that as well. So either I just remember this episode, or they're starting to get into a groove of all these things they kind of do again. I think this is the only time they test the City Rover, though.
I think it is, too. And I can't remember any more guerilla reviews, but I definitely remember this one. But that first segment, I mean, that one is popular enough to really kick off a lot more of these sort of races, these epic races of something versus car or whatnot. So in this case, it was Richard and James on the train, really, and then Jeremy in the all-new DB9.
Would the Toyota Hilux versus the Earth not be the initial one of this?
I mean, the Earth is a formidable foe, but I don't think, like, Richard or James were actively piloting the Earth.
I think it's not a race between people as well. Okay, all right.
Yeah. So
the Hilux was a start and end of its own type of segment.
It's true. One of one. So the one thing that the first thing that they kind of went through the rules, and basically Jeremy was not allowed to use any sort of train, which that's easy enough. Yeah. Unless I guess you're taking the one through the channel. And then Jeremy and James and Richard were not allowed to use any type of car, which they quickly got on a bus. And I was like, wait a tick now.
Yeah,
sort of a car.
Pretty much what I remember from the future ones is essentially a car versus some other form of public transportation, or James flying them. So I think a bus is just going to have to be okay. They're going to have to get to the train station somehow. They're not going to walk the whatever 15, 20 miles it is from the Top Gear track to Guilford train station. They walk the 2 miles to the bus stop. But I think walking all the way is kind of out of the question. So I think in the future they use the bus as well. And that's just going to have to be okay. They didn't use a taxi.
No. True.
It should have been just, you guys have to use public transportation. And I get to use the Aston Martin DB9.
Yeah. I think that's a little more... I mean, because he also doesn't just use the DB9. He obviously has to get across the channel, so he takes the ferry.
Yeah, but he doesn't use a train. And other ones, I think he does use the train.
He does, definitely.
Yeah, so it's, just in this particular one. But he got to use the Sea Cat, which is the coolest of ferries.
Have you been on the Sea Cat?
No, I haven't. I don't think I've ever been on a ferry.
Really? I was gonna follow up with that question, because I with or without, like, at all, or like I assume you've been on something without a car.
I've been on boats, yes, Jeff, but I have not been on a ferry, like
not like proper ferry,
like as a mode of transportation to get somewhere. I've been on a boat as a mode of transportation of being on a boat.
Okay,
like the whole point was to be on the boat, not to go somewhere else on the other side of the water. So, no, I've never been on any sort of ferry. That's what happens when you're live most of your life in a landlocked Colorado.
It's true. We did I've only been on the ferry with a vehicle once, and that was with the van a couple years ago. And it's an interesting experience, because you're just like, okay, just park here and then leave and then come back later and drive off. Okay.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, but the Sea Cat's pretty sweet, though.
It is. It went fast. The one I was on was across, like, Puget Sound, and it was going like 10. Sea Cat was going like 60.
Yeah, it's booking. It's booking across the English Channel
sir.
there. Yeah, so I guess let's talk a little bit about it. It looks like they started some point in the morning, and I'm gonna go through. I have written down here what James and I did the same thing. What James and Richard did, and then we can talk about what Jeremy did, which is a lot easier to explain. But James and Richard had to walk about 2 miles. They said to the bus stop. Then they just took a normal bus that was apparently to James flabbergastingly expensive. £5.60. And then they took that to the Guildford train station, which they took a commuter train into London, to Waterloo, and then they rode the Eurostar, which I have ridden, from London to the Gare du Nord in Paris, and then they had to go to a different train station in Paris via the metro. So that's the third train they've been on. 1 bus and 3 trains. Right. And then they got in the TGV to Nice. So that's the 4th train, which is another high-speed train. And then they got on a commuter train from Nice to Monaco/Monte Carlo, whatever they could get to in Monaco. So they rode on 5 trains, 1 bus, and they walked for 2 miles.
Wow.
Yeah. And
that's a lot of changes.
And one of those was the French Underground, which is relatively convoluted in Paris. Sorry, the Parisian Underground.
All right.
Jeremy, he drove. He left real fast and then drove to London and then down to Dover, onto the Seacat, to Calais, which is essentially the same route that the Channel takes, and then just straight down the French motorways.
He skipped Paris, right? You went outside of Paris?
Yeah, I don't think you're going to want that traffic.
Nope, agreed.
No, but it was an interesting race. There's a couple sound bites I'll put in from James and Richard enjoying their time on the train the entire way.
Looking forward to the first class lunch.
Would you like a drink?
I think it could be champagne.
I'll have champagne as well.
Thank you very much.
I liked when they pulled out their computer to track him, and I was like, whoa, this is so the early 2000s.
Did you see that mouse connection? It was a PS2 to USB connector. Awesome. Because their computer wasn't advanced enough to have a USB connection for a mouse.
Yeah, no universal serial bus yet.
That's hilarious. Either that or it was being used up by all their other tracking device.
True.
Yeah. So those are the 2 routes, Jeff. I cannot get Google Maps to work right now, but I pulled up Google Maps for these 2 routes. Mm-hmm. And luckily, Google Maps can do like the public transportation stuff for you too.
Yeah.
So, going the way that Jeremy went, via a ferry from Dover to Calais, it says it was 909 miles and it would take you 14 hours and 9 minutes.
Okay.
Now, I'm assuming 2 things. One, that Google Maps knows what the speed limit is and then assumes you're going to be driving the speed limit.
Yep.
So I'm sure Jeremy did know what the speed limit was and was not driving the speed limit.
Was driving in excess of said speed limit.
Yep. So, and then Google Maps had essentially the same route for James and Richard.
Okay.
It didn't have any mileage on it because you're not driving, but it said, depending on start time, between 12 hours and 46 minutes or 14 hours and 1 minute.
Ooh.
So depending on when you leave, and it had walking, bus to Guildford, commuter train to London, Eurostar to Paris, metro to the Gare de Lyon, the TGV, but they had the TGV going all the way to Monte Carlo. They did not have to stop in Nice. So that was the one difference. So on the face of it, looks like it's about the same, you know?
Yeah.
I bet Jeremy did it in somewhere in the 13-hour range, and I bet the guys did it somewhere in the 13-hour range, so I bet it wasn't that far off.
Yeah, agreed. I mean, it seemed like it was. Spoiler, the car wins.
The car wins.
But, yeah, I kind of expected this. There are times when it does not, but this to kick things off, it makes sense to let the car win a little bit. But it didn't seem like he'd been there that long.
I don't know. I think the one where they go to the ski resort later on, like they pass each other. Like he passes the bus on the way up to the chalet or whatever.
Yeah.
I think he'd been there for at least a little bit.
Okay.
And this is where we first get introduced to Richard telling us that James does not run on television.
And James refuses to run on television.
Yep, that is definitely the origin of that trope.
And so they kind of ambled into wherever their finish point was. But yes, it looks like, you know, when you watch sort of this thing, you just kind of assume that it's rigged. But it looks like at least it was a close race.
Yeah.
From the start.
Yeah.
Which is pretty
nice. Good. I'm
without Google Maps.
Specifics. Yeah.
Another thing that I saw, Jeremy's map, when they reintroduced the segment, because of course they split this one up in the episode. We're not going to do that. Jeremy's map, when he showed where they were going and the routes they were taking, had 3 countries on it: UK, France, and Germany. It left out all of the other countries. There's no Belgium, Netherlands, Luxembourg, nothing, none of that. Italy.
Don't worry.
It was
about
just
them.
everything else outside of France was just Germany. So it was an old war map, is what it was, which is pretty funny.
Well, we should talk about the car a little bit.
Absolutely, because it's
we
amazing.
have been bitching about that stupid DB7 for a while. And he kind of introduced things, Jeremy did, with the first time I've heard him talking a little disparagingly about it, because he would not shut up about how pretty it is and all that. And this time he called it a Jag in drag. Said it was basically a rebadged XJS.
XKS, but yes.
XKS, whatever.
Yep. Yeah, and he said it was, it was small on the inside. You didn't have very much room, and that it was. I think he did say maybe a little more positively that it was definitely an Aston Martin. It was a big, long bonneted muscle car. That this one is not, since it's not built on like an older style frame. This is more space agey and newer. So his whole thing with this review was: is this a real Aston Martin? Does this have the hallmarks of what we expect from an Aston Martin?
Yeah, and this one it has the 6-liter V12 or 5.9-liter V12. This was putting out 460 horsepower at pretty respectable 0 to 60 time, 4.5 seconds with a top speed of 190. So
all of those are good.
Yeah, not bad at all.
It had 19 miles a gallon, which he was kind of again negative about. He thought that was a lot, or not a lot. He thought that was low.
I mean, I could see like on the highway a little bit low, but still, like that's a V12. That's not.
Yeah, it's not going to be an economical vehicle.
No, didn't we laugh about that with one of the previous cars? It might have been one of James's early segments where it was like single digits.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't call it terrible. He did have a hilarious time finding the gas lever, or the lever to release the gas cap.
Well, it turns out it was a push button, and it was hidden way up somewhere else.
It looked like it was supposed to be where the typical hood release is, but
yeah.
But he also did mention the new gearbox. The previous one, if you recall, that's also used in the Vanquish was basically an automatic manual. So it was a flappy paddle, but it was just hydraulically actuating a manual transmission, clutch and all, and it's just a mess. I heard those things are nothing but problems. So this one has a proper automatic, also with flappy paddles, but it'll just run without braking all the time.
Yeah, we talked about the Aston Martin Vanquish back in Series 1, Episode 4 of Top Gear Rearview. And that's where he pretty much loves everything about it except for that transmission. And so he's really excited that this time they have a more proper transmission. I think he still would have rather had just a regular, just normal manual. Yep. But this is miles ahead of the other version of the flappy paddle.
Yeah, that one was just a dog, and I mean, multiple people have had them replaced with just a proper manual because it doesn't break. So this engine, this 5.9-liter V12, is really the same one in the V12 Vanquish. Mm-hmm. So not a lot of difference there, but glad they put a proper transmission.
They talk about it a little bit later on, but the V12 Vanquish and this DB9 have the same engine, but they're like 65,000 pounds cheaper for the DB9.
Yeah.
I feel like you're getting a lot of the same car. I don't know what you're missing on the Vanquish from this DB9, because this is still it's not the top of the line, it's the middle of the line.
Yeah.
But it seems like you're not missing out on anything. You have a better transmission, the same engine, fully revamped new body, aluminum or carbon fiber, brand new interior. I mean, what are you missing out? Why would you buy the Vanquish?
I don't know. I mean, I assume it's a little bigger. I don't know. Why would you buy an S600 over an S500? They're not that different. But I did like the in France too, when he appeared to be pulled over, or about to be pulled over by the cops, but they were just like, go faster.
The French Razas.
The French Razas.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I like the jazzy music. They really use that saxophone stuff that I recall vividly from Series 1 in the beginning of this segment. I don't know why, but it was just like, oh, okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
So it's even the same, like, chassis as the Vanquish.
It makes sense.
Or the Vantage. No,
Yeah.
the Vanquish.
The Vanquish. The Vantage is the little guy. That's the cheap one.
Sorry, no, I got that wrong again. It's the same as the Vantage.
Oh, well, that makes more sense.
So it is a considerably smaller car. But that being said, he said it's bigger than the DB7. So
okay.
maybe he didn't really feel it. But yeah, that was the first car versus not car. Good race. It looks like a sizable drive. I mean, 900 miles is a sizable drive.
Oh, that's a monster.
What did you drive your last trip back home just now, Jeff?
The big one from South Dakota to Boise was it was 14 hours, 950 miles, so just a little bit longer. And that was a mother. It's not like, I bet the scenery was better on theirs, and I bet the wind was probably not quite as bad, but still, that's a long ass day.
Yeah, I mean, it's really tough getting your wife and 2 kids into your DB9 as well, I bet, right?
True, the kids have to sit in the trunk. It gets awkward.
It's pretty bad. Dad, how fast are you going? Shut up. Not that fast.
Got to get out every couple hours to check on them, make sure they got good air.
Just the air exchange.
They're little. They don't breathe that much.
All right. Well, let's be done with that race then.
All right.
Good race. I would look forward to more of those in the future.
Oh, yeah. These are fun ones. This is the start of a lot of good segments.
Let's do some news.
Quick stop by the news. Not a lot here. The one thing
you got to stop saying that. You say that every news.
Okay. Tons to talk about here. Primarily the BMW 1 Series. It's funny. They come in kind of swinging on this thing like, oh, they made, a cheaper entry-level BMW, and it's a dog. It was like 0 to 60 in 11 seconds, which is like that, the bottom of the 1 Series line. Oof.
That's pretty doggish.
Yeah, but I mean, the 1 Series brings us the 1M. It brings us the 135i is a really good car. Like, there's a lot of proper, like, really BMWs that hold their own that come out of this. So it was a tough. They called it ugly, which I don't fully disagree. I don't think it's a great looking line, but
they're just hopping on the bandwagon at that time.
Yeah,
too.
Yeah. So that makes sense.
Yeah, I remember the 1 Series being around all over the place when it was over in the UK, because the 1 Series is the perfect size for the UK. It's small, but you can still get the bigger engines in it.
Yeah, I think it came here a little later. Like I recall test driving a 135i in like 2009. But yeah, man, that's a good that's a fun motor. I would really enjoy that. And I hear the 1M is just, it's still holding value. You could still, if you bought one new, put reasonable miles on it, and sold it today, you'd make money.
Yeah, you're still selling it above.
Yeah, it's crazy. But yeah, they also talked about the Focus RS and the disappointment that Ford never really gave them what they were asking for.
And then they talk about the Fiesta RS, which
I didn't know existed.
The disappointment that the Ford is not going to give them what they want.
Yeah, but they did have the Fiesta ST.
They did have the Fiesta ST, which is a fun little car. 2-liter, 150 horsepower.
Yeah.
150 horsepower in a car the size that I drove around while I was in the UK would be super awesome.
Yeah, it's enough to like have a lot of fun without getting in a lot of trouble.
Yeah, you could probably still get in a lot of trouble though.
I mean, you can get a reasonable amount of trouble.
I had like a 1 liter engine in that thing, and I was like, this thing is zippy.
You come from driving a very old Toyota T100.
Yeah, well, so that thing is not zippy.
No, zip is not in the vernacular of a T100.
Do they get an ST later on to test?
I do not believe so. Let me check real quick.
Series 20.
way on, it appears. So that would probably be the current generation. So the one that they had in the studio there was previous generation.
All right, yeah. So I don't know if they get the ST in the current form. They kind of rag on the name a little bit too, which we won't go into. But it's a fun little car.
The one thing that I did take away from the name ragging was like their audience is getting more attractive. I don't know if that's just the fact that they're getting more popular, or I don't know, but yeah, the ladies they talked to was like, oh, you're not bad looking.
Yeah, there you go.
All right.
Then they touched briefly on the mini cabriolets.
Yep.
It's about 2,500 pounds more per model type to get the mini with a drop top on it. I don't know, probably not worth it, but maybe. If that's your thing,
yeah,
it's a fashionable car.
Yep, it is. It's not as bad as the stupid hardtop coupes.
And it makes me sick.
Oh, it's guerilla review time.
I don't remember what episode we talked about this in, but they flashed up there the Rover Vihe.
Oh yeah, it was the City Rover, and then there was some other one that looked like it was meant to go off road but wasn't.
Urban on-roader.
That was it. Yeah. Urban on-roader. What a terrible set of words to put together.
So, and then we touched on it then when we talked about that because that was just a news segment, but the City Rover.
Urban on-roader is just a car. That's just a description for a car.
That's the joke, Jeff. That's the joke. So I guess I didn't really realize this about Top Gear as a whole, but they test more cars than they make segments on. They make reviews on. And so they said that, we weren't ever going to make a segment on the City Rover because it's not the type of car that we do, even though they just did a Panda last season.
Yes.
But they wanted to go drive it around just so they were informed.
So what do they do with that information? Do they is there a column or something in the UK?
I know that Jeremy is a rather prolific writer as well, so maybe.
Okay.
But I think it's just kind of part of their job as auto reviewers. They need to review all the cars in the segments.
Mm-hmm.
Like, if we're going to do a review on a Fiat Panda, then we probably should know what the competition are. So what I guess what they do is they just ring up and say, hey, I'm Jeremy Clarkson. Let me try out this car. And they go, okay, here you go. And they either use that information in a review or they don't. I guess it doesn't really matter. But anyway,
all right.
So that's what I was surprised by. That I didn't really put that together, that maybe they drive cars that they don't do a TV show segment on, but I guess they do. And so anyway, they phoned up Rover and said, hey, can we drive the City Rover around? And Rover said, no.
You can't.
No.
We don't trust you.
We don't want you to have it. And that just incensed them. They were just like, well, we gotta drive it now.
It has to happen.
It must be so bad. And so they came up with this test, Jeff. And what was it?
It was basically James going in with a dummy girlfriend and a few hidden cameras and, basically posing as a driver and then kind of driving a known route that he had strategically placed, driving obstacles of sorts and camera people and even a comparison car along the way. So it was better than I recall. I don't recall all of the efforts they actually went to make this happen. I also don't recall how bad hidden cameras were back in the
Dude,
time.
The only thing I pulled out of this segment was, oh my God, I am so spoiled by GoPros.
Oh yeah. I'll take a little fisheye if I can see.
I can get 1080 in a little box on the. Yeah, these guys are holding up full on hey, your family video cameras, and it looks like garbage.
Yeah, and where we can get a 4K out of something the size of a Tic Tac container.
How much easier would it have been? With just cell phones,
oh yeah,
because
you would fake it. Yeah,
you don't even have to hey, don't look suspicious. It's hey, look like you're taking a picture on your cell phone, and that's the least suspicious thing you can ever do.
Yeah, that's just everybody has their stupid phone and their stupid face today, so that's totally normal.
Who is that? A KGB spy? No, he's just taking pictures with his phone. He's fine. That's
not even a tourist. That dude lives on the street.
Everybody's a spy.
This is his daily Instagram shot. Yeah, so that was a tough one to get, but basically, it was a good segment because he had a little, he had dangerous. What if the brakes weren't good? What if he hit his plant that stepped in front of him?
That's a price they were willing to pay, Jeff.
That poor Asian tourist.
Oh man.
But and then he had a roundabout. He had some kind of jittery sections, but and then I really did like when the Panda came up next to it.
Yeah.
It was just okay. This is just good planning. That's proper execution.
I'm gonna play a clip here, Jeff, that you're not gonna be able to hear, so I'm gonna explain it to you. But at the very beginning, he explains that he has a hidden camera in his tie.
Yes.
Okay, that's fine.
Yeah.
And then he explains that the lady who's faking his girlfriend, they've planted a camera in what looks like her cell phone. Like they say the words.
My pretend girlfriend also has a secret camera hidden in a mobile phone.
Like a hidden camera in her mobile. Like, was there not camera phones? This is 2004. When did the iPhone come out?
It was like 2007, wasn't it? I think it was, because the iPhone X is the iPhone 10 years.
Yeah, but they skipped the 9 and they do double on every number. I don't think you can take their numbers as 10 years.
I'll double your number.
Because it's always like the 6th.
Launched in 2007,
all right.
June 29th.
But there weren't cameras back then in
there
phones?
Definitely were, in flip phones. Like, I recall having just, like, they took absolute garbage of pictures, but, you know, they existed.
But it's funny because she would have had to hold her cell phone out like in front of her all the time. Like she walked in like with it in her hand, like, okay, mildly casual, but like they're in the car and it's obvious that it's not his tie camera anymore. It's the camera in the phone, or, you know, this whole thing was staged and it was just a regular camera.
Also possible.
But she's like holding her phone like in the middle of the car, like moving her phone around as she looks, like the most inconspicuous thing in the world. Which makes me think this whole thing was staged.
I still hope not, but I mean, it's possible. Yeah, these apparently MG was paying like £3,000 for these, and then slapping a few things on them and charging more than double that, which is that's a bold move. And apparently the public was not so excited about that.
Well, there's got to be some import fees, but yeah, you got to keep the lights on, dude. You got to keep the business running. You got to keep all those car designing engineers unemployed. You know?
Yeah, exactly.
Hey, are you the guy that put all those vents? All right, you get to stay. Everyone else, you're fired.
You're out of here. It was not a good car, which could be expected. But
awful car.
James said,
That is the worst car I've driven on this program.
that's saying something.
Well, I mean, he's only been there a little bit, but yeah, I think it might be.
Especially if he's driving outside of stuff. Like, this is his kind of segment.
Yeah.
I mean, this is the car that should appeal to him on some level, and he was just like,
I think I'd like the Panda, to be honest. I like that he came over all British, like something was so bad that he goes,
It's so awful that in front of the dealer I come over all polite and British.
It does seem to ride quite smoothly.
he's just lying through his teeth.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Good review. Good, guerrilla review, aside from garbage cameras.
Just terrible video quality. Just, oof. But go check it out. This whole episode is extremely worth a watch. The race is really good, and this segment is really good. And you know what? Frankly, the helicopter crap at the end is pretty good too. So go check that out. We always say this, but you can check them out on. I know they're available on Amazon because that's where Jeff and I watch them. And
this morning.
If you are a Prime member, you get to watch it for free.
Yeah, series like 20 something, right?
17.
Okay, I do. I put a link in the show notes to the current season, so that will be there if you want to take a look. So on to
There'll
the
also be a.
God damn it! You ruined my joke.
All right, sorry, go for it.
No, I was gonna say on to the talented Mrs. Ripley.
Okay, do it again.
No,
it's a good joke.
It's not a good joke.
It's a good joke.
Okay. So on to the talented Mrs. Ripley.
On to the talented horror scenes deleted.
Yeah, I didn't recognize. We're not doing well with guests recently.
It's been pretty British, bro.
It really has. I looked at at her IMDb history, and there was one that I was like, oh maybe. Oh nope, that's like a British version of that. It was the Stretford Wives. I was like, oh, she was in the Stepford Wives. Nope, I misread that.
Never mind. Oh, she was in that TV show Drop Dead Gorgeous. Oh nope, just Dead Gorgeous. You know, she was in a bunch of stuff. Like her Wikipedia page, before I even went to IMDb, has her filmography in it. Mm-hmm. I don't recognize a goddamn thing.
It's a lot. It's just British, including How Do You Want Me in an episode titled Woof.
The only thing on here that I could even remotely recognize is the movie Frankenstein with Robert De Niro, in which the whole joke of horror scenes deleted comes up. She played a prostitute in that movie, but all of her scenes got cut. So Jeremy says that she was actually credited in that film as...
Yeah.
Have you seen what this says?
No.
Whore scenes deleted.
Which is hardcore.
Which is
a rough
brutal.
time.
It's a brutal way to be credited, but it's really funny.
It is. It's a good, I guess, if you got to go down in history of something. Yep. She has been on apparently cold feet for 20 years.
Okay.
Was until last year at least. I don't know if it's coming back. Maybe it's not dead yet, but it's just so British.
I don't have much to say. She had one Mini, but it got stolen before she got it. I don't know how that works.
She has a propensity for road rage.
And then she had another Mini that some asshole totaled, and by some asshole she means her.
Yeah.
She did have a Prelude at some point that she got rolled up on her.
Yeah.
On her hood.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're gonna call up and sue Honda for having a rough hood.
Yeah. It was a pretty rough interview. I don't recognize anything about it, so it wasn't terribly funny to me. But her lap was extremely entertaining, Jeff.
It was.
She was an angry little driver.
She was.
I wrote down.
She made a lot of noise and not a lot of speed.
Insane lap. I also wrote down Johnny Vegas-esque. Because she was just foot to the floor, turn the wheel, doesn't really, the ramifications of those two things together doesn't really she doesn't really comprehend it in her mind. She was understeering everywhere. She was oversteering in a front wheel drive car. Also, she was just all over the place.
I think one of the biggest things that I meant to, I thought about this like right after we finished up the last episode, is a lot of you hear a lot of the same like from like the fast and the slow people because they're driving the tires at or just over the limit. But the biggest thing is like a lot of speed comes from smooth. Like if you can be smooth, even if you're right at the limits, like you'll maintain, you'll hold your momentum. You're not going to be jarring the car all about and like just scrubbing speed, understeering. You're going to be like right at the edge of grip, but holding or accelerating through those corners.
Yeah, I mean, it's also another thing that the tire makes essentially the same sound if it's right on the edge or if it's way past the edge. It's just going to squeal. That's all the sound it can make. Yeah. So you have to kind of look at it and go, are you squealing because you're fast, or are you squealing because you're ludicrously too fast?
Are you going, like, is the squeal happening while you're traveling in the direction the tire is facing, or is the tire protesting the direction it wants to be going?
Yeah. They said that she started her laps at 2:04, which is very bad. Yeah. But when they started to take the time on it, they said 1:53 was her final time, but they also said mildly moist, which
is bullshit. No, that was a dry lap. But I guess we have to go to our standard again. Look at our list, make sure it is in there as such. So give me 1 second here. Yes, this one does officially say mildly moist.
Bull.
I agree, but brief stop at the cool wall, I suppose. City Rover was one of the first cars I feel like they're like, yeah, it's pretty uncool. It's seriously uncool. Yep, seriously uncool. Next. They pull out the 612 Scaglietti, and they don't put it anywhere. Did you notice that?
I did.
I rewound a couple of times. I was like, where did it end up? Where did it go? And they just cut. And it didn't end up anywhere.
I feel like this episode and the next episode have some odd editing choices, maybe for the American market.
Potentially, yeah.
We're not far enough along to take advantage of some other methods for watching the show that have come to us, but I feel like we missed out on a lot.
Yeah, that we have not seen every car go up on that wall. I can tell you that. So
no. They get to the Aston Martin DB9, which everyone in the crowd obviously screams Sub-Zero or way cool or whatever, and Jeremy says, "No, you're all wrong," and everyone's like, "What? Just cool then? Just regular cool?" Like you could hear a couple guys in the background like,
"Yeah,
no, it's cool, man."
No,
it's got its own icebox that comes off the end that's below Sub-Zero, which is kind of an absolute thing. It's like double Sub-Zero. But it's got the DB9 icebox because it's too cool, Jeff.
It's too cool for Sub-Zero. That one sticks around for a while too, doesn't it?
I'm not sure. I don't remember that at all. Actually, I watched this and I was like, "Oh, what's that little thing?"
Really? Oh, I totally remember that little offshoot. I think something else goes in there.
They put something else in there.
Okay. I think so.
Well, if something deserves to be in there, a successor to the god awful DB7 is it.
Agreed. That was a proper follow up to a barf car.
Your car is barf.
Your car gets its own fridge now.
Okay. All right. Are we done with the cool?
I think so.
let's do this egregiously overproduced segment on the Lotus Exige with Jeff. You and I love this car.
Oh, yes. I still casual, like, if I see one available for sale, I look at it and say, maybe I'd fit.
Jeff, there's a lot of things that you look at and go, if they're up for sale. So I don't know if that's saying something. But
by the way, that XJ6, there was a limo. Somebody apparently bought it.
I saw that in the show notes. You should check out the show notes, everyone, if you don't.
Yeah. So this segment, this one is memorable for me, more so in that they actually copy this one in, I believe, the first episode of Top Gear USA.
Oh, really? They did an Apache helicopter versus what?
They did a Cobra versus a Viper.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's not as good. This one's better. But Top Gear US, which is a show I do believe is really good. Not Top Gear America, because that show, but Top Gear US. That one hits its stride later. This is an early episode. It's awkward, but it's still fun. Tanner Faust can wheel. So
Tanner Faust can wheel.
Yeah. He is actually a race car driver, which helps. Anyway, back to this one. The Lotus Exige. Yes, this is a car I would say we both covet, and both might not fit in.
Yeah, I mean, it's probably... I mean, I guess Jeremy fit in it, but I don't know.
Yeah. I don't know. It's funny when he gets out and then looks back in. I was like, God, it looks tiny in there.
This is essentially the hard top Elise, but they kind of made it a little more hardcore. They got a better engine in it, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, they did. He talks about this when it's out of the Celica. This is the
Celica, Toyota Celica.
Yeah.
I say Celica now because of Project Binky, not because of Top Gear, but because of Binky.
Yeah. Which that's another one. I haven't thrown up a link to that in a while. If you're a car nerd that has roughly, I don't know, many hours to kill at this point, it's transporting a Celica GT4 drivetrain into a Mini Cooper, and it's amazing.
Yes.
But this one, the Celica engine is the Toyota 2ZZ GE engine, which is a very good engine. I mean, this is, it's what is it? 1.8 liter, high compression. So it does need premium in the US, but they put this in a couple of different variants of the Lotus. They put this in many Celicas. There's also some oddballs like the Corolla XRS, the Matrix XRS, and the Pontiac Vibe GT got this engine.
Well, the Pontiac Vibe is just a Matrix.
It's a Matrix, yeah. But yeah, it's that with that drivetrain. The one we were going to talk about some nerdery here. He does mention a few times the two camshafts. And yeah, both of us were kind of like, "What are you talking about?" And it actually is two camshafts. And it's the first production engine to combine cam phasing variable valve timing with dual profile variable valve timing in the American market, which is a mouthful.
That's a lot.
Basically, it kicks up to a better cam profile at like 6,200 RPM.
Yeah, which, honestly is awesome. I feel like 6,200's, would you say it redlined at 84?
82. So it's got a 2,000.
It seems high. I feel like you're going to want that power a little earlier.
Well, it kind of depends in, I don't know, because the S2000 motor revs to 9,000, and like a lot of the fun in that motor is above 7.
Okay.
So I think it's just you
just got to be good at managing your RPMs.
Yeah. Well, you gotta throttle it. And yeah, you got to know the car, because like my Honda like redlines at 6,200 RPM, so it's gonna have to be you got to trust that it's not gonna blow up.
Yeah, this thing's got it's the hardtop Elise, as we said, but it also has a lot more aerodynamic stuff done to it. It's got a big spoiler. It's got a front splitter. Looks like it's got a little bit of underbody stuff going on as well, which makes it I'm sure a lot more rigid, but probably quite aerodynamic, and then a lot more downforce. Probably more than just none additional downforce on the Elise.
None downforce.
None downforce. Upforce.
Some downforce better than none downforce.
Yeah, exactly.
It's under a ton and 190 horsepower, which that's a recipe for a good time, really.
Sorry, I was about to talk, but I yawned.
Brutal. They obviously used their music budget on this side of the program as well, leaving apart that saxophone in the beginning, and they used Ace of Spades in this segment.
The whole segment when they brought in the helicopter, like, all right, the whole car versus a helicopter is a generally pretty dumb idea, but the editing and the speed of the music and how badass Ace of Spades is and how badass the Apache attack helicopter is and how badass the Exige is turned into a pretty badass segment, I have to say. It looked like a lot of fun on both sides.
Agreed.
Obviously, the premise, can a Lotus Exige, survive an Apache helicopter? No. Not unless there's a lot of stipulations put into place, and then even then, probably no.
Well, they said yes. I think they had to do miss a lot because it has that awesome gun that just it's literally like point with your eyeballs and shoot.
Yeah.
Yeah. But the whole point of this thing was to try to get missile lock, and they actually were not able to get it until that cheeseball segment at the end.
Yeah, exactly. Yes, the fake blow up the car segment.
Yeah, kaboom! Our graphics are amazing. It's 2004.
We used computers.
Yeah.
Let's get to the good. Let's get to the good.
This is our power lap.
Yes, exactly. In this particular one, they called it a slightly damp track. What does it say on the list, Jeff?
Ooh, I gotta check here. 1 second.
Because there's a big difference between damp and moist.
There is.
It's a big difference between damp and moist. Am I right, ladies?
Ladies. They said mildly moist. Wait,
okay, they said.
Wait a minute. Whoa, but their time's also different than the one I wrote down. Oh,
what do you have? What do they have?
126.9. What do you have?
I wrote down 126.9 as well, but they had 4, didn't they?
Yeah, they did.
Because I looked it up and I changed mine. I had 126.9.
Yeah, that's what I wrote down. What the ass?
I'm pretty sure it's 9.
Nah, the Top Gear official site also says 126.4. That is some bull.
I wrote down 9 as well. I swear to God.
We're going 9. I think we got to give it 9.
All right. That's what's said in the episode.
Yeah.
All right.
Mildly moist is a second?
It's 3. Damp is 1.
Okay.
So this, they say slightly damp, but I think we're going to go with mildly moist. That's what the official sources say.
Yep.
Which gives it a 3-second deduction, but it did a 126.9.
Which is scooting.
Which is quite fast, yes. If you take into account the modified lap time because of the moisture, that is
awful close to the.
That is our 5th fastest. Oof. It is exactly the same as the Koenigsegg.
Oh, that's so
0.1 second off the Pagani, 0.2 off of the Newstig Lamborghini Murcielago, and then we're starting to get it's 2 seconds off the Gallardo and 2 seconds off the GT3. So we're a ways away from those, but it's boxing well above its weight
price
class
bracket. Yeah,
exactly. So let's go ahead and do some desirability scores. This was about $30K in price, yes, Jeff?
Mm-hmm. Yes, sir.
All right. How much you like this car?
I'm gonna give it an 8.
Okay. Yes.
I think it's not quite. The 8 is because in my mind I could daily this car. In reality, absolutely no way. But I want to. I want to try. Okay. Have that terrible couple months of ownership.
Yeah, I'm gonna give it. I like this car a lot. I'm gonna give it a 7. I think that's way above what I gave the Elise. Let's go check and see what we did, because this is just the hardcore version of the Elise. Let's see. The Esprit, you gave the Esprit an 8 as well.
I love the Esprit. I don't know why.
I gave it a 5. And then the Elise 1.8, you gave a 7. So I gave it a 4. So yeah, I gave mine quite a bit lower on the Elise, and you were a little bit lower. So an 8 and a 7, that's a good score.
It's going to be good. Is our new leader?
This is number 2.
Oh.
It is number 2. This got a 121.85, which is extremely good.
Yeah.
It had positive marks on all segments compared to the M3. Cheaper, faster, and higher desirability score. So that puts it right behind. I think in the lead is still the GT3. That 2 seconds on the speed.
It's just so fast.
It's so fast.
It's not that expensive, and it's so fast.
And it got a little bit higher desirability from us as well, Jeff.
Yeah,
so it's 3 points behind the Porsche, but it is 3 points ahead of the Gallardo, which was number 3. So number 2 on our list, which is awesome. Great showing from the Exige for sure.
Definitely a car that I am still browsing on Bring a Trailer right now.
I think that its place in our list is due. I think it's a deserving number 2. Yeah,
definitely. Well, that brings us to the end of this inaugural episode of Series 4. So hopefully you're enjoying these. If you are, we always appreciate a recommendation to a friend or a rating or review on iTunes. Those help us kind of keep up there in the search results and everything. If you haven't subscribed yet, you can do that through iTunes, through your podcatcher of choice. That also kind of helps bump our download numbers.
Yeah, for sure. If you are listening to this on YouTube, then obviously you know that we post our podcast to use YouTube as well. If you're listening to this on your podcatcher of choice, then you probably don't really need the YouTube version, but it's nice for you to know that it's there. If that is a better way for you to consume the episodes of Top Gear Rearview, I post them up there at the same time they go live on iTunes and on your podcast app. So go check those out. And also, come hang out at our Facebook page. We post our Top Gear Rearview power rankings up there, plus any cool car articles we see throughout the internet from week to week. This last one, actually, unfortunately, just the last article we posted was that they're going to demolish the Top Gear track.
R.I.P.
The Dunsfield Aerodrome is going to be paved over and turned into a parking. No, it's going to be paved over and turned into a housing tract.
It's brutal, man.
I think we'll have Pave Paradise and put in a parking lot. Play us out, Jeff.
And we might have to. One more thing, I'm going to throw in a shameless plug. We did a podcast before this one called DI Oh My God Why, because Brady and I are both big DIY fans. And we actually still maintain some semblance of that podcast in visual means on YouTube and on Instagram. So you can find us there. Again, it's just DIOMGY. We're pretty easy to find. I'm trucking along on my own race car build. He's got a lot of woodworking going on, so it's a fun place if you want to keep up with us elsewhere and outside of the Top Gear realm. It's a good place to go.
I think we'll be getting out of our winter hibernation soon. On housework and stuff. So that'll start to pick up. But yeah, check that out.
All right, so I think that about does it. So on that note, we will see you guys here next week for Series 4, Episode 2.
Don't it always seem to go that you don't know what you've got till it's gone? It pays paradise.